Hello, boys and girls. It's time for another exciting session of comprehension. For this lesson, we would be learning about facts and details in reading comprehension. Ask yourself, how do I know this is so? And you will realize that you need details to prove an answer. Now, what exactly is facts and details? Facts are things that can be proven, and the details are the information used to prove the facts. We cannot discuss facts and details without discussing main ideas, nor can we talk about main ideas without talking about facts and details. They have to go hand in hand. Your facts and details lead to your main idea or what the particular reading text is all about. They are the supporting bits of information that helps you to understand the main idea of the passage. The main idea wouldn't be the main idea if it didn't have facts and details to discuss. Now, let's talk a little about recalling facts and details. When we are doing this, sentences that tell more about a particular point are called the details. So for instance, you might be talking about a ball. Everything that's written about this ball would be considered the details that supports the fact that the object is a ball. Now, facts and details explain or supports the most important idea of the paragraph. It also tells us about the who, what, where, when, why, and how of the main idea. These are known as the 5W plus H. Now, let's look at the 5 W's plus H questions a little more. The first W, who. Who questions ask you to identify a person or character in the story that you would have read. What questions ask you about the details of something. They can refer to an object, activity, or event. When questions ask you for the time an event or activity happens or has happened. Where questions ask you for the place in which an event happens or has happened. The when and where questions makes up the setting of the story or passage that you would have read. Why questions ask for the reason something has taken place. And the how questions ask about the way something happened or a quantity of something. So there you have it, the 5 W's and the H questions. Now, everything that we read contains some sort of fact and details. Questions about facts and details ask you about something that is stated in the passage. To answer a question about facts and details, you surely need to look back at the passage to find the answer. So, let's give this a try. Let's see if in this passage, after reading, we can address the issue of facts and details. This is Miss Brown. She is a nurse. She's tall and thin. She works at the hospital. She looks after sick people. She gets up at 6 o'clock in the morning. She takes a shower and puts on her clothes. Then she eats her breakfast at 6:30. At 7 o'clock, she drives her car to the hospital. Miss Brown starts work at 8 o'clock. She cleans the rooms in the hospital. Then she helps the doctors. At 12 o'clock, she has lunch. She goes home at 5 o'clock. At home, she takes a shower and she cooks dinner. She has dinner at 6:30 in the evening. Then she watches TV. At 10 o'clock, she goes to bed. So that's the passage I have for you. Just take a few minutes and read it through by yourself. Now let's see if we could answer these questions to see what facts or details have been provided in the passage. Now, we know that the story was about Miss Brown. So let's look at some of the things we can find out about Miss Brown. The fact is that her name is Miss Brown. Let's see what are some other things we can find out. What was her occupation? From the passage, we can see Miss Brown is a nurse. Where does she work? She works at a hospital. There you can see, working at the hospital can support the fact that she's a nurse. Now, what does she look like? Here you see, we must go back to the passage to see what details we can find to describe what Nurse Brown looked like. She's tall and thin. Do you see that? Yes. Those are the bits of details that would help us to say what Nurse Brown looks like. What time does she get to work? If you look carefully from the second paragraph to the third paragraph, it gives you a description of all her activities there. At 7 o'clock, she drives her car to the hospital. She starts work at 8 o'clock. What time does she wake? Again, in the second paragraph, we see she gets up at 6 o'clock in the morning. And where does she cook her dinner? In our last paragraph, at home, she takes a shower and she cooks dinner. So we see she cooks her dinner at home. Now, those were some of the facts about the story and some of the supporting details that we used. We used what was presented in the passage to actually answer those questions. Now, when completing a comprehension exercise, it is more than memorizing what you have read. You need to look back to the story to find and verify the facts and details that you use in your answer are correct. Facts and detailed questions are basically recall questions. These are known as literal questions. They're right there in the passage. This means that there is no real interpretive thinking skills involved most of the time. It is just a looking back to the facts and details provided in the story. You should be able to go back there and find the answers written in black and white. The answers are not usually inferred or left for you to interpret. Now let's look at some strategies for facts and detail questions. Now, when you're going to answer such questions, like in every type of question you will answer, you need to read the question. Find the part of the passage that discusses the question. Some of the words will be the same. So you will look at the question for clue words, and then you will go to the passage to see where you can find those clue words. And then you try to formulate your answer based on the question. You don't have to always reread the entire selection or the entire text. Look quickly through the text to find the facts that you need. Now, the questions, as you would have seen based on the passage we looked at just now, were based on who, what, where, and when. Those are very easy fact questions. However, the why and the how requires a little more putting together or synthesizing of the ideas in the story. These are a little more difficult to locate in the reading passage. You need to become reading detectives, where you read and always look for the clues for the answers to the questions. Remember, facts and detail type question is based upon information which is actually stated in the passage. Now, here are some ways facts and detail questions can show up on a reading activity. So let's say that you are given a passage to read. This is what some questions might look like referring to facts and details. According to the passage, when did something happen? What was the name of? And maybe it's a person or a place. How far it is to, maybe to get somewhere. Which of the following is not a reason? Who is the one who? And there you will see that you need to read a little more to find out, based on the event, who is the one who maybe did something or didn't do something. Where did he find? Maybe where did he find the pencil? So you need to read back the passage and to be able to find the details to support the answer based on questions which may be formulated in either one of these ways I just read to you. Now here is a part of a passage taken from the Fun with Language Book 5. The title of this passage is A Kitchen Garden. I will read, you will follow, and then we're going to look at a few questions that require us to find facts and details. A kitchen garden. Jack always boasted to his friends at school about his lovely kitchen garden. His teacher intervened. She told him to seek his parents' permission to have his class visit the garden. Permission was granted, and Jack got the chance to show off his garden to his friends. Jack first took them to a shaded section by the side of the house, and here he made some introductory remarks about the garden. Jack: our kitchen garden is situated at the back of the house. Before the plot was made into a garden, it was very bushy. There were lots of weeds and grass, which my father and I cleared away. I worked with my father when I got home from school and also at weekends. After the grass and weeds were removed, we planned our garden site. We dug drains and made rows of beds. We plowed those beds and collected manure, which was spread over them. We selected a shaded section in the garden where we decided to grow young seedlings before planting them permanently in the garden beds. The plants, which will grow into vines and climbers, we planted near the garden fence or allowed to run an arbor, which we built. We dug a drain to get water to wet the plants. Here in this section where we have the seed box, we sow seeds in these boxes and cover them with coconut leaves to prevent them from too much sunlight getting on them. When the seedlings are strong enough, these tender plants are transplanted to the beds selected for them. We continue to put covers on them until they are sturdy. Jenny, what about the section over there? What kind of plants are growing there? Jack took them nearer. There they saw beds with many kinds of vegetables. On each bed grew a particular vegetable. There were vegetables such as callaloo, pepper, cabbage, okras, tomatoes, and bora. Jason, why are these plants growing flat on the ground? Jack, oh, those are cucumbers and pumpkin plants. They run along the ground. But if you look across there, next to the fence, you will see squash and carilla plant. So, as I said, this is just a part from a passage taken from the Fun with Language Book 5. So if you have your Fun with Language, you can go ahead and read the entire story. Now let's look at a few of the questions and see if we could find the facts and details to answer these questions. Did Jack's parents give consent for the class to visit? If you could see the question is not finished, it says, give a reason for your answer. So did Jack's parents give consent for the visit? Yes. If we go back to the passage, we will see that after the teacher told him to seek his parents' permission, in the next sentence it says permission was granted. And that would have been the details to support your answer. Now, where was the kitchen garden found? Again, you have to go back to the passage because you could, if it was just based on memorization, there was a part where Jack took them to the side of the house. But the question is that where the kitchen garden was? No. But then there is a little way in the passage where it says, he told them that the kitchen garden is situated at the back of the house. So you see, you still have to go back to the passage to find these answers. Now, what types of plants were planted near the fence or arbor? Now, this is particularly dealing with location as to near the fence or arbor. So, you must go back to the passage. He would have listed a lot of vegetables that they planted, but you only want those that were planted near the fence or arbor. Good. It says that the plants which will grow into vines and climbers are those that he planted near the garden fence or allowed to run on an arbor. Can you identify some of those plants? We definitely need to read down in the passage to see what were those plants. If you look at the last part of the extract, you will see that Jack said, oh, those are cucumbers and pumpkins. They run along the ground. But if you look over there next to the fence, you will see squash and corilla plants. So you will see definitely that the squash and corilla plants are those that were planted near the fence or allowed to run on an arbor. Now, why were these plants planted there? Again, you look back to the passage and you will see at the top it says that the plants that will grow into vines and climbers are planted near the garden fence. So that is the reason why the corilla and squash were allowed to grow next to the fence or on an arbor. And the final question, why were seed boxes used? Again, you go back to the passage and you try to find the section that spoke about the seed boxes. If you look at the second part of the story, you will see where he said, in this section, we have seed boxes, where we sow seeds in these boxes and cover them with coconut leaves to prevent too much sunlight from getting to them. So the question asks, why were seed boxes used? They were used to grow the seeds and to prevent them from too much sunlight getting them. Now that we've answered those questions and we have looked for the facts and details from our passage, I am sure that you are a little more confident about how you can answer these questions. Okay, boys and girls, you have just explored and practiced how we exactly find facts and details when reading and when answering questions. You must remember that facts can be proven and the details are the supporting information used to prove these facts. So did you enjoy the lesson? I know for a fact that you did. And how do I know that? Because you stayed with me throughout the lesson. That was fun indeed. So until next time, this is so long from me, Ms. Shamsuddin, on the Literacy Ladder.